Let's do it.
Let's dive in.
Dr. Zev Mellman. What's up, brother?
What's going on, big dog?
Thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
And
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for the adjustment that
Absolutely.
I just got.
Of course.
I'm feeling great. Feeling
Anytime.
Longer.
Yeah.
think I'm 6'3" now. Normally walking around at 6'2".
Nice.
Tell us a little bit about how you. Oh, and sitting here with Carrie Jack as well, VP of Biohacking Secrets.
Hey,
for
what's
those
up,
of you
guys?
listening in.
So, not another chiropractor on a biohacking podcast. A lot of people out there listening are probably going, ears are turning the other way or maybe not paying attention. Let me give you a little background on what got me into chiropractic so you can understand this is more purpose than paycheck for me. I was 14 years old, couldn't pronounce the word chiropractic, had no idea my mom was even driving me there, but I had a breathing problem, not a back problem. Key distinction because I had no idea why I had a breathing problem. It was just one of those things like cavities, like a lot of you out there may be dealing with an issue. It's like yesterday I was good, today I woke up, and what happened? Why did it happen? What's the cause? So long story short, couldn't breathe, no air. My mom brings me to a medical doctor. Medical doctor auscultates my lungs, checks, says, oh, this is common in kids your age, you have asthma. Writes me a prescription, I get an inhaler. Long story short, one inhaler leads to two inhalers, and before I know it, my skin starts getting bad. Not a good time around 14 to start getting bad skin.
No.
Not a good time.
No, that's the teenage years, man.
Those are teenager years, and you're developing a lot of character and your personality is coming through. So, I go to a dermatologist. So the dermatologist says, you know what, here's a prescription for doxycycline, tetracycline, and I start going through all of that.
They got you on the antibiotics.
Huh?
They got you on the
14.
antibiotics.
Yeah, so I'm going from inhalers, 2 of those, started with 1, and then 1 wasn't working after a little while. 1 was effective. Drugs work. Medication does work. So it was working for a while, and then it started to diminish. So I go back, and he says, you need a second. So I get a second for sports-related things, and all of a sudden my skin goes bad. Go to the dermatologist. Now I'm on another prescription. Long story short, we're just getting frustrated because at this point, my immune system's starting to crash. A lot of times we don't link lifestyle stuff like that to that, but all of a sudden I go from never getting sick also to now I'm missing a week, a month of school because I'm getting a lot of pneumonias and bronchitises, and it's just this now we have all this protocol in place for managing kind of where the path I was going. Long story short, I'm like, Mom, we got to do something. So she's like, oh, I know a chiropractor. So she brings me to a chiropractor. By the way, chiropractic changed my mom's life.
Yeah, my mom's a chiropractor, you know that.
Absolutely. So you were born and raised under the chiro roof. I wish I was a chiro baby. My son now is a chiro baby. All the children I will have will be chiro babies. But long story short, she brings me to the chiropractor, right? The chiropractor takes an x-ray of my spine, shows me that I've got over this 10-degree hook in between from about here to here. Whoa. And to me, the minute I saw it, it just made logical sense that something in the center could affect diaphragmatic breathing, could affect neurology.
What's a 10-degree hook?
The spine from an A to P or front to back should be perfectly straight, if not within a range. Right. Look, we're over a millimeter, okay, no big deal. But the point is when you have this angle, not at scoliosis, but just like you have a shift in your back, in a lot of times we could even see it in our posture. You know what I mean? Like women are very in tune to that. They notice like their strap hangs different, or when they're checking themselves in the mirror, they see asymmetries or like balance issues. So long story short, you couldn't see it in me though. That was the thing. So it can be tricky when it comes to the spine. But long story short, an X-ray showed it clear. So she starts adjusting me. Yep. Immediately after the first adjustment, I'm breathing better, like instantaneous, like we were talking about during your adjustment. Yep. That's why I'm passionate about it.
My breathing's slower and deeper.
For sure. The adjustment always provides what the person needs at that moment. That's the best thing about it. It's very adaptive. It's like the ultimate application in my opinion. But either way, my breath changed. I took a deep breath for the first time. I was like, whoa, right after the first thoracic adjustment, which is the common, if anyone's been adjusted, the hug move, the bear hug move.
Oh, I love the hug move.
Not to be done in karate studios and in the gyms, by the way, by people that aren't chiropractors.
I've seen Andre the Giant finish
for sure.
guys with that
Hey,
move.
I can do what your chiropractor does. Or the Homer Simpson one. I love that one.
Just hold yourself and I'll pick you up from behind.
Exactly. So either way, everyone's looking to get the release, whether it's through chiropractic or otherwise. But it changed my breathing, and it really put me on a path to understand that the answer was from inside out. It really helped me develop that philosophy, and it just changed my life, man, and that's why I'm so passionate about it. And I didn't obviously go to chiropractic school at 14, but I started getting regular care from 14 on because it just made sense. It was like, I noticed throughout the week my breathing would diminish. One, because my body's now used to the steroid, so it's at that threshold level of needing my body to work with it. And over time, I just noticed like it was improving the way I felt. I got off the table, my posture was better, my stress was less, even as a kid, just basic little stresses. And then when I was about 17, I knew that was pretty much about it. So I became a chiropractor, started undergrad. My 18th birthday, July 12th, was my first day. I was probably
you knew right away.
You just know. You knew. I'm not giving some of the story for just time purposes.
Yeah.
Like I did fight my mom a little nail in tooth, just being a stubborn teenager,
Yeah,
saying,
for
"Hey,
sure.
mom, I want to entertain people. I want to be an actor. You know, like I love to talk. I love to make people laugh." And my mom just straight up says, as like a Jew from New York, you know, is like, "You're gonna go to school and be a chiropractor, and then you can entertain your patients."
And now
Straight up.
And now you've got
Straight up.
Dr. Zev TV.
Yeah, Dr. Zev TV. So it's so
So you
funny.
can do both.
You know, my mother knew it. You know,
Yeah.
moms know. You know,
Yeah.
moms know if you trust their guidance. So, and then a year in, I knew. You know, I really knew, and that's the thing. So I'm really just blessed, in my opinion, to feel like every day I walk my purpose and I really do it. And I like do it. I'm not saying that from like a room. Like obviously you've been in here. How many people? You know,
I can say from
it's-
firsthand, you changed thousands of lives.
yeah,
and I've
I mean,
seen it.
yeah.
In myself included. Like,
yeah, I mean, me and Kerry have an inside joke about trying to minimize the wait time under an hour to get adjusted. And,
Yeah.
you know, I'll adjust and be like, "Hey, that was 15 minutes. That wasn't bad."
Because he's always slammed. This place is just, it's
So-
churning and burning.
Yeah.
So it's either I'm crazy and the people that I serve are crazy for, you know, wholeheartedly, you know, getting into the chiropractic lifestyle to using it the way I recommend using it, or the people listening that really have had a bad experience, or for whatever reason they're following the dogma of it's pseudoscientific.
Yeah, they're
it's
chiropractic myths.
It's chiropractic myths. It's cold.
Yeah.
You guys get what I'm trying to say.
We'll get there, too. Stay
Yeah,
tuned.
we'll get there.
We're-
But you know, you hear these things and you either then buy into them because they were your idols or your mentors, and you go, yeah. But then there's people that last resort, man. There's a reason. You know, chiropractic starts with a C, and it's usually people's plan C. We say that a lot. So they come in, they've already gone through everything. You guys watching out there or listening have to understand that the reason chiropractic, when it's done right, you know, and it's not just my way done right, but when it's done artfully and skillfully, when it's done to where you walk out, you know you've had the experience that you really wanted, that's in your mind, like that's what I should have had, and I really felt that, and you vibe with it. You just know that this is it. You know what I mean? And it's going to be an important part of your healthcare strategy.
Yeah.
It's not the only strategy.
Yeah.
And people do that. I don't know if you notice in your guys' world, but we're so bare minimalists.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, what's the minimum I could do to get this? You
The
know,
maximum
And
result.
Oh, you mean lazy?
lazy. Yeah. I was trying to be nice, but yeah. You know, people are freaking lazy. They are. They're freaking lazy. A lot of people out there are lazy because, you know, medicine has made them lazy, right?
Yeah.
Everything's in the
and
pill.
drugs. You said drugs work, but the truth is drugs only work for a short duration. They only mask the symptoms.
For
They
sure.
don't fix and treat the root cause.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yep.
You know, and I think the world's open to that. They're conscious
Yep.
of that, and that's why, you know, people are watching podcasts or listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos, getting on live to just listen. We're hungry for content from maybe people that are doing it a certain way or people that we vibe with, because we're looking for answers, man. The medical model, it's not that there's not a time and place for it. Please, I'm not that chiropractor who's gonna just bash medicine, although it's fun. I do like doing it because they bash me all the time, but I'm really not. Like, I have so much respect for surgeons. I have so much respect for vets that are saving lives, that, you know what I mean, can take someone from near death, you know what I mean, and bring them back so then they can get into a different path, walk a different line,
yep.
you know what I mean, and then take ownership over their health. So I'm not that guy, but I also understand, like, you can't get health going through the medical model. Like, that's clear as day, man.
Invasive surgeries and
Yeah,
pharmaceutical
that's
drugs.
clear as day.
That's,
Yeah,
You know,
and
give
I think that that's an important distinction to make, is that we're not trashing Western medicine, because so many doctors that have come through the conventional system are now opening up their minds to the benefits of other disciplines.
For sure.
And I really think that like the next level is going to be people educating themselves on what works,
Right.
regardless of where it comes
Right.
from, and utilizing what's best for the patient
Right.
because it works.
Right.
Yeah, the
Results always speak for
multidisciplinary
themselves.
Approach. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Absolutely multidisciplinary.
Nice. And Carrie, you have a pretty cool story. We'll kind of give them the condensed version when
Oh,
you were a
geez.
little kid, right? So you came up with chiropractic as well.
Yeah, so my mom, she was a pediatric chiropractor for 35 years, and I was dropped on my head as a child, which explains a lot, I'm sure. But my dang sister pulled on the cart as my mom was walking, and boom, head on the asphalt, and had, you know, a hematoma on my brain, hemorrhaging, etc. When it came time to speak and put words together, I had an extreme stutter. Like, I couldn't even put two words together. It was da, 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 da. And I was so frustrated. I couldn't speak. You know, I lost the power of my voice. Well, I never had it. And I would bash my head into the walls and just extreme frustration. My mom set out to fix it through chiropractic, because we went to the speech pathologist, whatever.
Pathologist.
Yeah, there
It's
you
a
go.
tough-
That's a
Five
Say
dollar word.
pathologist 3 times
yeah,
fast.
pathologist. We went to, you know, every different therapy class, and nothing worked. So she then studied with Dr. Larry Webster,
Oh, yeah.
one of the OGs
His
of
mom, I've
chiropractic.
had conversations with his mom. His mom's studied under the best, man.
Yeah.
Historians.
Yeah.
That have changed the game.
Yep.
Yeah.
So she then essentially studied with him for weeks, then brought that knowledge back to me. He said within 14 days of doing this certain cranial adjustment on my skull, you probably know more into the science than I do,
Right.
but she did these cranial adjustments on my skull for 14 days. On the 14th day, he'll be able to string words together and speak.
On the 14th
On the
day.
14th day, to the day.
Dude, that's
he called it out because he was like, he gave her the exact
Yeah.
formula to do it, to fix a stutter.
Yeah.
And if you're stuttering out there, there's help. You don't have to live with it.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
And you've exhausted other options,
and we've
too,
exhausted so
right?
many other options. Moral of the story, on the 14th day,
Yeah.
guess what? I was speaking, and here, I'm okay. I can string a couple words
L'chaim.
together. Hey, l'chaim.
L'chaim.
But yeah, shout out to Dr. Amy Taffine, and
Yeah.
she saved my life. Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be where I am
Yeah.
today if I
Dude,
couldn't
and
string words
let me
together.
let the audience know something that's also really cool and powerful, because I don't know what it's like in medical school. I didn't go that route, but in chiropractic school, I went to Life University in Atlanta, Georgia, really in Marietta, and I had to tell you probably 80% of the class the first day when they're like, and this is in the grad school portion, not undergrad, they're like, hey, why did you become a chiropractor? Let's go through it. Let's everybody, because you're going the quarter together, right?
Yep,
So
yep.
it's Q1. 80%, man, have stories just like you.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
'Cause it works.
Yeah, like, I get some people have had wrong experiences. They haven't had the right ones. Or unfortunately, we should probably talk about this. People should understand the behind the scenes business behind healthcare, and chiropractic gets consumed in that because we'll
Yeah,
get
let's
into it.
let's do that.
You want to go into
let's
that?
talk a little bit about
Where?
where a lot of the quackery campaigns
Okay,
and
yeah.
The quackery.
where that originated.
Okay, so quackery campaign. So let's go with this. Chapter 1 in the genesis of chiropractic starts with chiropractors being thrown in jail every day for doing what I do hundreds of times a day. Okay.
And about what time frame is that?
Probably early 1900s,
Okay.
so roughly no one knows, and I'm not a historian, so don't quote me, please. Don't be that audience that is like Googling, and then I'm 1 year off. Just, 1895 is roughly around the time. There's a little plus or minus there, but
Yep.
we have some
Yeah.
paperwork that says that.
Flexner report and a lot of the industrialization of medicine was happening like the first and second decade of the 1900s.
There you go. So the first, let's say, 50 years of chiropractic, 30 to 50 years, chiropractors were thrown in jail for doing what I do every day. And I think people should know that. And the reason they were is because they were showing up to medical doctors' offices, and this is all well documented, not in a chiropractic magazine. This is Googleable stuff. And it basically was, hey, Mrs. Jones, what's going on? I haven't seen you. Well, this guy is adjusting me, and I'm feeling good. It's the same stuff I'm dealing with today sometimes, on a micro level. And they're like, well, who is this? He's a chiropractor. Oh, what? Oh, that's quack. That's a cult. It's a religion. It's, don't buy into it. It's pseudoscientific. There's no grounds for it.
What was their
so
motivation in
they
doing
would pick
that?
up the horn. Well, what's the motivation for anyone doing anything outside of medicine? No result, not feeling well, looking for an alternative, right?
Okay.
To a degree. It's not like they were like, and obviously some people are just open-minded. But at the end of the day, people were looking to get adjusted or attracted to this person because they needed help. Right at the end of the
But
day.
why the slander?
Oh, why the slander? Well, they didn't know. They had no idea. And then the premise, the science, and the philosophy doesn't vibe. You see, medicine's a lot off of Newtonian physics. It's mechanics. It's this isn't right. We put this back in. This part isn't working. We take it out. And there's a time and place again. But chiropractic is a more vitalistic philosophy. It's like, hey, we understand the body's smart. We didn't make that up. We just acknowledge it. You cut your finger, it heals. Your hair grows from inside out, not outside in. Your nails, when you cut them, how do they grow? From inside out. We understand there's an intelligence that runs the universe, the body, it runs the land, the animals, and we respect it. We work with it, and how we work with it, we can get into a little more without being like hokey pokey.
Yeah,
on
and the
that
energy
statement.
parallels in our body as well.
For sure. Black and white statement, guys, is everybody knows the body's smart. And I'll give you a great example. Whether you drink too much or you have the flu, when you go to bed, you need to get sleep, because when you wake up, you're going to feel what? You're gonna feel better.
These
right?
open-ended questions you always get us.
Sorry,
because
man.
we don't know what to
Sorry.
say.
I've stopped answering them because I'm wrong.
I don't do that,
50% of the
man.
time.
I'm on like number two.
okay.
I'm on number two.
What is?
I
okay.
wait to see if
nervous
he really
system.
wants an answer, and I'm like, I think he's gonna answer it. I'm
All
gonna let
right,
him
no
answer
more. But you guys all know. Look, I just don't want to be the guy talking, right? So
Oh,
you
no.
guys know when
Be
you
that
go to
guy.
sleep and you wake up. Okay, I'll be that guy. I got diarrhea of the mouth, man. So you know when you go to sleep and you wake up, you feel better. So no doctor visited you in the middle of the night. Your body knows what it needs to do. I think every doctor, even outside of medicine, that was once in medicine, understands that. Surgeons, when they open the body and close it back up, know that the body will then do the rest of the work for it. So chiropractic works with that. Our premise is that. That's our bread and butter. We've preached and teach that from the Genesis. But that gets back to why we were being thrown in jails. We don't vibe on that philosophy level, and that's also why we do vibe with a lot of the whistleblowers,
It is-
the naysayers, the
chiropractic
people
is-
that are like.
yeah. It's devoid of the biochemical approach, which is like something's missing from the body. You got to
Right.
put that
Chemically
in,
put it
even
back
if
in.
it's not something that organically exists in the body.
Exactly.
So like, there's none of that in
And
chiropractic.
there's none of that in chiropractic. And while there are a group that likes to functionally practice certain ways and try to be all things for all people, I think sometimes it discourages people too, because then you're trying to be the flea market, the one-stop shop. And there's better people out there that just focus on those one things. In my opinion, I only do chiropractic. I don't even sell a supplement in my office because I want to master this craft. And that's what people come here for.
Yeah.
I don't talk supplements all day. I have knowledge on it. I educate it. Obviously, I consume some supplements, very minimal, but at the end of the day, we should look to the people that master that area and then do that. But nobody, and I say this very passionately, nobody can deliver the adjustment. And that's the chiropractic adjustment. There are going to be people that push on your backs. There's DOs that deliver manipulations, you know what I mean, and do it quickly just to cavitate the spine. But chiropractic is specific. It's individualized to a degree. And some people are like, well, is this different for me than is your adjustment for Anthony different than it is for Carrie? In certain regards, of course, and on x-ray, that's our starting point. But you only have, 24 plus movable vertebra in the spine. I mean, at the end of the day, a tape is a tape, a haircut's a haircut. There's going to be parallels, is my point. Because a lot of people out there are like, oh, well, it's the same thing. It's not always the same thing. It's a lot of times different, and it's always based on what the person needs. But by eye, when you're looking at an adjustment, you can't see if the chiropractor was touching T4 or L5 or T6, because it's so close. But a T4 adjustment, or I should say actually T4 and T6 will do similar things, but one adjustment in one area of the spine will influence the neurology of the body much different than another area. You know what I mean? So it's just understanding, and from outside in, sometimes they can't see that. So they like, oh, it's the same thing over and over again. Anyone who's been getting adjusted for years knows that it's never the same thing over and over again.
And just to clarify, so if we're looking at the spine, you've got C, cervical,
yes.
L, lumbar.
C, cervical, T is thoracic, that's
Thoracic.
mid-spine, L is low spine, and then you've got your pelvis, your sacrum, your coccyx, etc.
Okay, cool.
And that's your foundation. So we don't divert, though. Chapter 1 in chiropractic is we're thrown in jail for adjusting people. And check this out, I always like to share this with people because this is where it gets into like, this should be on Netflix, Hulu, or Amazon Prime. So someone either pick this up, or as soon as I start fading out, I'm gonna make a movie on this, because because it's really good for people to know is, chapter 1, we're thrown in jail. Now imagine you being thrown in jail for doing what you guys do and teaching truth and experimenting and things that
It might happen.
Like, give me the definition. What is your definition of
Put that
biohacking?
juju out.
Okay, no, good.
It might
That's all
happen. What's your definition to a degree, plus or minus, on biohacking?
Biohacking
Yeah,
is,
and there's a
it's
reason I'm asking. Not
using
an open-ended question.
ancient wisdom and modern science to upgrade the body and mind.
Facts. So imagine now that that's your purpose and premise, right? So imagine now somebody goes in and says, well, I'm working with this biohacker who's really changed the game for me, got me off some meds, or makes me feel better, and you know what, I'm into it and I like it. And at the end of the day, results speak for themselves.
Yeah.
Regardless of what any paper says, results always speak for themselves, especially when
sure.
they're consistent results. So if someone threw you in jail over and over again, are you going to come out and do it? Or are you at one point going to talk to Carrie and be like, dude, we might need to think of something else because I can't keep being thrown in jail.
Yeah.
You get my point with that?
Yeah, for
These
sure.
people were so convicted back in the day, these historians, like some of the people, your mom was taught from.
Dr. Palmer,
Yeah,
right?
these people were thrown in jail, dude, and ran from place to place because of persecution of practicing medicine without a license. So convicted to something that they saw it, believed in it, that they got out and do it again and built their practices bigger.
Now, was this because that the traditional medical community saw them as a threat to their profits?
I can't speak because I'm not a medical doctor, but the word on the street,
sure
the word in the classrooms was, this was malicious, this was intentful, and the Supreme Court, which we can get to in a second, that's what they ruled on. They said this is without a doubt intent, and they went to the fullest spectrum of letting people know, never have a chiropractor in your classroom, never teach to a chiropractor. Like, this was hardcore stuff. In fact, I don't know what the word is, but this parallels with racism and a lot of the stuff we still see. Like, I can't say why, someone wouldn't like a Jewish person, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it's just maybe something they grew up with, something like an idea in their head or something they were told when they were a kid and they just hung on to it. And I don't mean to go in that direction, but it's, some people don't even know why they hate chiropractic.
No,
and to a little degree, I would have to say, like, it's new, it was different, it was new, they didn't understand it, and they're just trying to shut it down.
Or maybe they saw a really bad chiropractor. This is at least nowadays with some of this stuff.
For sure, and that's possible. But I'd also contend that, I don't even think there were bad chiropractors back then. And the reason I say that is because there's no room for error. Think about it. You know what I mean? One bad, move, one bad adjustment maybe who knows what that could do. So my point is they were all soldiers. And the history, if you go into it, and I know there's a lot of great historians in chiropractic that have written books, and there's a lot of cool stories. But long story short, chapter 1, we're thrown in jail. Okay?
Chapter 2, what happened?
Chapter 2 is groups of chiropractors, one group of 4 actually, say enough is enough. The persecution's enough. We're going to take this to court. They take it to court, they lose. The judge tells them, the story goes, is if this wasn't a normal standard jury and you go to the Supreme Court, if you could raise enough money, I believe you have enough facts to win. So in the late 80s, don't quote me again if it was 87 or 1989, but in the late 80s, Supreme Court finally ruled after like 10 plus years of this being strung out. You can imagine they were hoping for this to just go away. Google this, guys. Supreme Court rules the AMA guilty of trying to destroy the American Medical Association, of trying to destroy, and check it where I'm going to go with this, dismantle and completely just kind of throw under the bus the chiropractic profession and say the same things that you guys are repeating now if you're a naysayer. Pseudoscientific, it's cult, there's no evidence, there's no need. They're just cracking backs, they're quacks. You know what I mean?
These were public, intentional campaigns that were funded to discredit the chiropractic
And you know
community.
what, I gotta think, I don't know if it's true, but I gotta think, you get a 50-year-old medical doctor, man or woman, who's practicing out in my community and all these other communities, might have been in the timeline when they were a freshman, year 1, and they were being told by their professors that same thing, and they've just held on to it because after all, don't we, we look up to our teachers. That's who brought us up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So unless we ask a different question, that T. Robbins stuff, we're not gonna come to a better conclusion unless our health is at jeopardy or something just doesn't work. Like, a great example is Zach Bush. That guy, Zach Bush, who's an advocate for GMOs, or non-GMOs, excuse me, but who, is completely, totally credentialed. But he literally just says, and I'm not using him as like he's the know-it-all, even though he's a super bright guy from what I could tell, he's like, look, I was practicing this way. I just wasn't getting results. So if you're open-minded enough, you go, there's got to be a better way. And that comes back to chiropractic is, you know what? It's not that it's the only way. It's not that you don't have to have a medical doctor.
Yeah.
It's just our bread and butter is hygiene, is spinal healthcare, is keeping the spine healthy, not just,
It's a tool in your toolkit.
It's a tool in the toolkit, and when it's done right, it has amazing broad spectrum multivitamin effects, and I see it every day. So Supreme Court rules chiropractic, the win, and rules AMA guilty. So that's an important note. That's not like a blog comment. The AMA was found guilty of trying to, destroy and dismantle chiropractic.
Wow.
And those same words are still being used. So they had to come out with a statement. One of the things was you have to reinstill or restore or reinstate the name of chiropractic. You can't just leave it like this. So they said, okay, they're good for back pain. We see some evidence for back pain. So that's chapter 2. Keep in mind also, guys, that I have some stories where, like, when I graduated, I was at this dinner, and I'm sitting next to a lady, her name's Mrs. Carver. Dr. Carver was her husband, he's passed, and she was along in life, further along, and she shared stories with me about how her husband was thrown in jail all the time.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, and that they sewed holes in their shirt to put quarters in, and like different areas. I don't know what was going on back then, but these are just, I'm just repeating stories
to pick
of
the
like
locks?
of how they needed money to bail if the mom wasn't there. Like, hey, you need to bail daddy out. You know what I mean? Daddy might be in jail if you come home from school and we're not there. So I got to hear that firsthand too. So I take it really serious. Like, it's more to me than just adjusting a spine at this point. It's almost my purpose is at this point is cleaning the slate, cleaning the mess up from all the mess that is there. And I recognize there's mess there. So chapter 3.
Oh, chapter 3.
There's one more chapter.
Okay.
And this is only my theory. And I came to this conclusion just, again, guys, not off reading a book, but a 0 to 1 experience. Like, I'm seeing it every day. I'm seeing people every day, guys.
You're boots on the ground.
I'm not a guru and I'm not a scientist. I'm boots on the ground, just working with lots of people every day. And a lot of people have had bad or unfortunate or just not favorable chiropractic experiences because insurance companies, and I'm not throwing them under the bus, but have controlled as a third-party payer the experience that they're actually having. And I think that's a key point because my theory is that the AMA got with insurance companies, this can be complete hoopla, but it's good for story, and to me it makes sense. AMA said, hey, we're throwing these guys in jail. They're coming back out. They're doing it over again. We can't, obviously they're not getting the big idea there. We're going to have to adopt them. Let's pay for their care, and then we can control it. Because if I'm going to pay for your food, then I'm not paying for Whole Foods, Gary.
Yeah.
I'm buying you Taco Bell, dude. I'm just letting you know. You know what I mean? I'm just
Man,
kidding.
I'm
I love
all
you.
right with a gordita crunch every now and then, but I don't want it every day.
You get my point. If someone's going to foot the bill, they're going to monitor closely how it's administered.
For sure.
Correct?
Yep.
So we
Makes
look
sense.
at chiropractic now, which was designed to be a lifestyle strategy, which is designed to be a tool in the toolkit, because as long as you're living, you're going to need care. We got into this we got fitted or forced into this treatment model, you know what I mean, of let's do 3 adjustments, 2 adjustments on a spine that's 30 plus years, that's had damage, decay, and the drugs don't even work. They're on 2 or 3 drugs, and 3 adjustments are supposed to resurrect this person and bring them back to life, and if it doesn't work, it's inadequate. That's ridiculous. Would you do 3 things, and if it didn't work, say I'm done, like in any
Well,
health
we wouldn't
protocol?
be entrepreneurs if that was the case.
Yeah, for sure. You get my
Because
point.
you got to keep pushing.
So you
through.
just look at like the context of things and how it's been administered. It's so unfair, if you really look at it. And they hone in on that. They say, you know what? Well, we tried this 3 times. I mean, we could link up with some studies, but tons of systematic reviews that have bashed chiropractic. One is they weren't even done by chiropractors, but they use the adjustment, saying that that's what we use, so they use our tool. But it's done by PTs. You see, like one of the biggest studies out, even current, one of the most current studies, I think it was done by Hancock. You guys can Google this. This is one of the most heavy-weighted studies because it was done so right. It was like Hancock et al. Says that 97% of the adjustments delivered in that study were done by PTs. They weren't even done by chiropractors.
So it's skewing the data. Cool.
Skewing the data.
So when you're looking at someone with your pattern recognition
Yeah.
now, what are some of the most common biomechanical imbalances that you see where someone listening to this or watching this video
Okay.
could go check themselves in the mirror
For sure.
to get a good sense of whether or not their spinal alignment is where it should be?
So subjectively, from a mirror standpoint, this is going to parallel with what any trainer and any person that's dialed in as your healthcare, as part of your team is going to be able to help you assess. This isn't just a chiropractic thing. It just happens to fall under one of our premises, which is posture. You look at, you look at your shoulder height. You look at
trying to sit right for
from a
this
Oh, this whole time.
You
I'm
ask
sitting
a friend. Ask a friend
like
to
I got
take.
a broom in my bum.
I need an adjustment. I'm the one.
Complete erect.
Yeah, I'm wondering why I'm the one sinking, and you guys
You
continue
are
to be
you've
more
been
erect.
slouching hardcore, Dr.
I
Zev.
know I am. So, you look at your side-to-side posture. So you have a friend take a picture. If you can't see it, that's always a real revealing one because we're so much on screen time. We're very forward.
Seeing so much of that forward head
Dude,
position.
everyone's got it. Don't put me in an elevator, man. I go
Yeah.
nuts. I'm like, shit, this
Oh,
this
'cause our
person's got
devices-
irritable bowel.
Well,
This
yeah, we're
person's
hunched
got...
over our phones and we're cutting off basically like our nervous system from our brain.
We're
by doing
putting
that,
stress
right?
on it for sure, absolutely.
Putting
So,
a kink in the hose.
yeah, putting kick and hose. So great visual. So, posture, side to side, balanced shoulders, mastoid or jaw process. Your ear is another good landmark over your AC joint or approximately over your shoulder. Hips, torso.
What are they looking for? Someone's in the mirror
They're just
right now.
looking
They're
for
trying to-
center. It's
Or an imbalance.
Symmetry?
yeah, they're looking for symmetry. They're looking for balance.
Okay.
You look in the mirror. The reason I'm saying is because it can be very broad. So I'm like, okay, well, what are some things aside from that? You could look at landmarks. Sometimes as simple as like the areola, on a man or woman. You could see
the
when
nipples.
you're about to take a shower. Yeah, the nipples.
We're talking nipple talk right now?
Yeah, thank you. No, the reason I say is some people come to me, men and women, and will say, hey, is this normal? This one's higher. I've noticed that when I'm like taking a shower, something up with that dude. Glute lines, if you clue into that, shoulder heights, rib cage, torso, you can see sometimes deviated. That's easy. Belly buttons.
Yeah.
Belly buttons are big. I get a lot of belly buttons. People are like, my belly button is slightly off midline, and I'm noticing that relative to my sternum or to my pelvis is something up with that. So from what people could do at home, assess your own posture, have someone take a selfie, excuse me. That's an x-ray. Someone could take a selfie, side view. That's a very revealing one. Tell them to close your eyes, march in place for about 5 seconds.
What
That'll
about
give
lay
you
on
more
your
realistic
back?
so you don't force it. That'll get you a better cutting off your,
Well, I was going to say, what if you lay on your back? Because I know when I look up at my legs and I put my legs up in the air,
Yeah.
one's usually longer than the other. That's a good way to assess it too,
It's
right?
an awesome one to assess it, actually. I didn't even think of that. You lay on your back. You could raise your legs up. You could feel mobility when you
Yeah.
lay on your back. Things like, getting off. And the reason getting off your back is important is you get off gravity. So you can feel your joints without a lot of compensation or recruitment. So, you can bring your arms back. You can look to the left. You can look to the right. You can really start to feel, not only posturally, but then range of motion where you might have restriction. And I think that's a key point because people know when they're stiff.
Yeah.
So you might say, like someone listening or watching is going to go, my shoulders look level, my spine must be healthy. Big mistake, man. And I think that's a big blind spot. So I just don't want people to just do that alone and go, oh, well, you know, my selfie looks pretty damn good. I'm sexy, man. You know, my spine must be healthy, because I do see a lot of people with great postures that still have other maybe symptomatic issues going on that they don't connect to the back or to the neurology of the human body, or their x-rays show arthritis or early degeneration.
Yeah, so there's those two components. You've got the degeneration component, and then you've got the nervous system and structural component. So like they may be structurally sound, but if there's degeneration taking place in the spine and you're not intervening with that and stopping that, you know, downward trend, then there's going to be a problem.
And here's a real cool thing that I think would be a good takeaway for people to know, and that's why it's important to have, you know, someone on your team that is managing the health of your spine, not just treating a condition. We need to get into the headspace of care over treatment. You know what I mean? You treat nails, right? We treat hair. We need to start caring for our bodies. But getting to that is studies out there have shown that when there's degeneration in the spine asymptomatically, so we're talking pre-symptoms, right? Before someone even notices something, but x-rays, feeling nothing, that degeneration, let's say at their lower neck, which they would call, let's say, spondylosis, which would be uneven wear and tear in the joint wearing down, that spondylosis creates hypersensitivity in the nervous system. So now what that means to the everyday person is you go, hey, I take the trash out every day, but this time when I bent over to do it, all of a sudden I'm in a lot of pain. Why is that? So this gets into biohacking, getting the most out of your body, because you have to understand that just because you didn't have low back pain the day before you took out the trash or lifted your baby, you know what I mean, or we're in the gym doing a deadlift or a clean, you have to understand that if you have early degeneration in the spine or uneven even wear and tear, it's the possibility, not 10 out of 10, but the evidence is out there to read. It might not be what exactly you want, because who's going to do that every day, right? But it shows that there's hypersensitivity, and if you have hypersensitivity in your nervous system, this makes you more likely to have an episode, meaning you lose vulnerability. So you're more likely when you carry your baby that one time to have a neck or back issue, just because of degeneration in the spine. You know, so you remove chiropractic, that's not even a chiropractic study. You just remove, guys, chiropractic from the equation. We're still at the end of the day dealing with when the spine breaks down in any shape, form, or fashion, posturally, mechanically, it affects the neurology, the blood supply, which is also, by the way, DO's premise. You know, DO's even entertain a doctor of osteopathic medicine, which is a branch of medicine. So if I don't want to, let's say, go down the hardcore medical path, maybe some of you guys would know even better than me. I'm not an expert in what that would entail, but I know DO's adjust. A lot of great research on the spine is done, thankfully, to DOs, because they've got funds or they've got enough to do it, make it happen. And you'll look like a great one was Irvin Core. Have you guys heard of Irvin Core? No. Old school, 1970s, neurophysiologist. So just a guy who understood how the body worked, right? He was adjusted by a DO. But the deal is, forget, you know, what his title was. He was adjusted. And he was adjusted by someone who at least was trained in it and knew it. And I'm not just advocating that, but at the end of the day, it was an adjustment and it changed his breathing. So if you PubMed Irvin Core, you're going to see tons of research on the spine is more than an erect structure, but it protects the spinal cord. And any deviation in the spine can influence the cord health, which influences nerve health, blood health, and changes the input into the brain and body, which changes the output. Make sense?
Love it. Yeah. So that makes sense.
Okay. So I'm listening to all this
broad topic.
I mean, we could go so many different directions. Let's give the listeners and the viewers some actionable takeaways, some biohacks for your back. Let's give three.
Let's say we've got people listening that are dealing with pain, neck pain, back pain, and this doesn't have to just be in the chiropractic realm. You see a lot. You see what has worked for people in that position. So for people listening and watching, what can they do to biohack their neck and back pain?
So I'm going to be very straightforward with this. I don't want to skate around it. I'm going to give you. I'm going to try to come up with three. First one is, guys, and I know this is self-obvious, but you've got to find someone you vibe with, you like with, that can care for you, because
and you may have to try a few.
You might have to try it through, but you know what? You know, I've had bad eggs Benedict, but when it's on, I don't know about you guys, but it's incredible.
Oh yeah.
So you just got to understand. You gotta persist. You know, I see people that have sometimes seen 10 chiros, and I'm not saying they were bad. They just didn't like the experience they had.
Yeah, for sure.
And I might not be the right fit for everybody also. So you got to find the right fit, the right person, and it can be magical. So one is you got to.
So if you are in Florida, it's worth coming to Davie.
Yeah, but here's the thing, and a key point I want to make a point of.
Dr.Zev Mellman,
if you got neck or back pain, you got to look at structure first. I could take turmeric for my back pain or my neck pain to kind of mitigate inflammatory responses.
Yep.
But if the joints in my spine segmentally aren't moving correctly and my disc has compressive load on there,
Yep.
turmeric might only mitigate some of the localized inflammation or systemic for a second. That's why you're gonna go, hey, I needed 500 milligrams, now I'm needing 1,500 milligrams. You guys, you can't override the body, and it has to start at foundation. So I can't stress that enough.
So number one,
but
find a chiropractor
number one,
that
you
you
really do.
vibe
We
with.
can't skate around it, man.
If they, let's say they find someone that's good, what is the frequency that you recommend?
One is frequency should always be based on two things: what their goal is and what their x-rays look like, in Zev's opinion. Okay, that's one. Is we got to go off condition of the spine, and we got to go off what the goal is.
Yep.
You know, so those two things. Unfortunately, a lot of recommendations, and here's a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Most people base their adjusting off money. And it's the worst thing to do. One is because the chiropractor either has a bad business model, and
Yeah.
they go, well, I've run into lots of people.
That's why I love
I
your
loved
business model."
chiropractic,
Yeah.
but you know what? It was too expensive. I couldn't keep up with it because insurances will cap it. So
Yeah.
people do have to self-pay. You know what I mean? Which is where it should be anyway, to be honest, because then they have more control versus an insurance saying, oh, well, you can only adjust one side of the neck and the hip, and then we want to know when it's going to stop and all these things. So long story short is
Well,
the
let me
business
speak to
model
that real quick.
unfortunately drives people's frequency.
Tell
but-
them about yours, though. Just,
well, you know, people, I don't want to go too in depth about it, but just my business model rocks. And my business
Yeah,
model isn't
it
based.
does. It really does.
My business model isn't based on frequency. My business model is based almost like an attorney. It's based on a retainer. It's based on a length of time.
Or a gym.
So
You pay
yeah,
like
similar to a gym. But the reason I stayed away from that is because, you know, you go to the gym if you want. And to me, this is necessity, not luxury. And even though I believe exercise is 100% necessity, you get my point. Is people kind of like, oh, well, I'm not using this thing.
You do it so if someone needs
There's
2
integrity
adjustments a
behind
week,
it.
they can come do that. If someone needs
Absolutely.
one adjustment a month,
they're
they can come
retaining
do
me
that.
for time, not service. So if their protocol, their recommendation based on their x-ray and goal is twice a week, but they slept wrong or they're dealing with a lot of emotional stress, like they got a big bill and they feel it in their body because doesn't stress drive pain, right? They get stiff and achy and they're like, dude, I know this adjustment will help me, or they had a loss in their family, or they're about to go through a family member that's sick. Like, guys, I'm talking about real stuff, day-to-day stuff. Forget neck pain from a tight move with a trap lift, you know what I mean? Or just shrugs. I'm talking about daily grind stuff that people are dealing with, from highs and lows.
Yeah.
They know the adjustment impacts their stress levels and their physiology. They can come in here and get that adjustment, absolutely, because they're hiring me to take care of them, not to treat just their problem.
Yeah.
And that's why I love my business model. My business model just makes sense. It's common, it's logical, and I would implore people to find people. It doesn't have to be mine, but something that resonates with them, because at the end of the day, to me, that is step one. And even PT textbooks talk about, before you get into mobility, before you get into some of these things, these are not chiropractic ideas, the joint has to be able to slide and glide right, and the segment in the spine has to, or you'll wear your cartilage, which is why a lot of athletes, when they're going through all this stuff, they still end up dealing with one issue mechanically after another, and they're like, well, dude, I'm doing lacrosse balls, I'm foam rolling, I'm doing tens, I'm doing this, I'm doing ice, I'm doing these things. Your nervous system has a threshold.
Yep.
And if it's exhausted, because internally, remember, if the joint's not moving right, then that signals to the brain that there's a stress going on, right? So if that's going on at the core level, then the nervous system still has to deal with that at its capacity. It's always going to try to help and go through it. That's its job. But at the end of the day, it has limitations. So one is we remove as many limitations as possible, neutralize stress, keep the joints in the spine healthy, keep your posture upright, right? Keep you in a good state. That's one. Two is
For the largest cross section of the population, what do you find to be the beneficial frequency of
Twice a
people
week.
Twice a week.
Twice a week.
Okay.
Okay.
I get
and
it.
for clarity,
Okay.
I'm gonna get there.
I have
For
diarrhea of the mouth.
Yeah, you do. We're gonna reel you in. So his business model is you pay.
Don't go into it too much.
Well, I'm not.
He
I'm
doesn't
not.
want to talk about
I don't
No, but
want
I'm
people.
just saying.
I don't want people ripping my stuff.
Well, no. Okay, but you can get the care you need.
You
as
get the
much
care
as
you need. Correct.
That's really what it is.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We don't block or turn people around. Number two, let's get to it, is I believe everyone should go on Amazon or find a local store that sells a balance disc. Okay, that's one of the first things we recommend to
just Google
everyone
balance
right out the
disc?
gate. You Google balance disc or
Is that
go
what
on
we were
Amazon.
sitting on to start?
That's what you were sitting
Okay.
on. So if any of you
We'll
were
link it up
watching
in
the
the show
video,
notes.
link it up. You'll see those movements. One is you should order two. Keep it flat just the way it comes in the box and put it on your desk chair. Okay, as much as standing desks are cool, the reality is you can't get them, and they also will have their cost and consequence. If I'm standing for 8 hours, I'm gonna have another issue.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It can be terrible, for sure, for sure. My line is, if you're working really hard, you don't want to stand all the time. Like,
Right.
you want to sit. Like, you're not gonna
you
stand
do
for
a
10.
hard workout.
You're working
like,
your
you don't
ass
wanna go
off.
stand for 8
Yeah, you don't want to
hours.
stand. So you want to sit on something that balances the load in the spine, okay? And just sitting on that, the best $12 you ever spent, 12 to 15 bucks. From a home care standpoint, you want to fill it up to the size that's in that video that you will watch or see, because you want to bring your spine through these specific spinal movements, not muscle stretches, that take the discs in the spine, because a lot of things start at the disc. The disc gets dry, the disc gets compressed. Think about inversion tables out there. Think about all the things in the marketplace trying to micromanage angles in the spine, lordosis is in our car seats, arch support in our feet. So a lot of it is angles, right?
Yeah. So for those of you guys that didn't see the video, we'll link to it. But Dr. Zev had us doing some like flexion and extension of the spine, lateral movement, twisting across the transverse plane to basically and correct me if I'm wrong, release that like synovial fluid that lubricates the joints, the cerebrospinal fluid, and get everything kind of back opened up and lubricated.
100% couldn't have said it better. So that's exactly what happened. So we need that, guys. You need that. It's 2 minutes to do. It's the best 2 minutes you ever had. You guys were sweating, from doing it. So it really does. And
I have a condition.
I am
I'm a sweater.
perspirator.
It's a condition, okay? So either way, that's number 2. And the third thing I would probably say is, after you've had an x-ray or you understand what your spine looks like, some type of angular traction, something that reinforces the angles in the spine. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want something that supports the angles, the lordosis in the neck, the rounding in the back. We want to minimize anything excessive, and we have to think that the postures that we're putting our body through every day are pulling those out. And the fact that so many people don't get adjusted regularly in like real-time healthcare to keep up with their back, we run the risk, we run the possibility of just having an imperfect spine that needs that kind of touch-up on a weekly basis. Does that make sense? Even from a home care standpoint. If I'm a mom and I'm nursing my child all day long in a translated position like this, I would like to be able, when baby goes to sleep, to just take a quick 2 minutes, or even, somebody before their day while their coffee's being brewed, to go through those motions, reverse some of those postural deficits that they created that day, so they feel charged. So it minimizes or offsets the damage in the disc over the long term. You know what I mean by that? So that's why I would say that. So those would be my top 3. Get adjusted, wobble, just to recap. And once you see what your x-ray looks like, then implore something that can kind of influence that or help you maintain some of the spinal support.
That's great. I love it. So I got a question for you when we get
fire away.
back. But before we do, let's take a quick look at some awesome biohacks from this show's sponsors. And we're back with Dr. Zev Mellman.
Hello.
So you just shared 3 of your tips
Yeah.
for things people can do at home.
Yes.
Getting regular adjustments twice a week.
Yeah.
Share the other ones again.
Okay.
Wobble ball.
Wobble ball.
Sitting on a balanced disc at work that doesn't have to be too inflated really helps.
We'll link up
compression-
in the show notes
Really helps
where to get
compression in the spine. I'm talking like bang for buck, boots on the ground, things that like hundreds of people tell me every day, like it makes an actual difference.
Yep.
Okay, best 12 to 15 bucks you ever spent, and then getting another one to inflate to actually do the spine-specific exercises that I was talking about.
Okay.
And then the third thing would be to have something in place once you know what your spine looks like that can support the curvatures in the spine the best way possible.
Nice. Love it. All right. So a couple, one last question before we go to the rapid fire stuff. I've been using a lot of hanging.
Okay.
Hanging
Oh,
from
I
a
was gonna
bar.
ask
Yeah.
And we even got some gravity boots for like decompression.
Correct.
It basically lets you go like Batman, hook your feet to the bar and hang. What are your thoughts on that and your feelings on that for spinal decompression?
I've owned gravity boots since I was 18 years old. I hang upside down every week in and week out. It's one of my tips, tools, and tactics that I've done since I was 18 years old. I've even studied upside down before my test. I was hacking since the get, and
Nice.
That's what's up.
so I'm a big fan of it. But
Okay.
you have to understand where I'm coming from in this, because as much as I advocate it, I used to even have inversion tables in my office. Really, really, really nice ones, like ones you just hit a button. But people who invert, that have degeneration on their spine, or they have a locked segment in their spine, or misalignment, or subluxation, or distortion in their posture, they would come up off of that and they'd be achier. So I said, you know what? It's a better tool for home. It's better complementary at home. But everybody watching or listening, I know because it's a back hygiene product, you think, well, am I advocating? I 100% am. But you have to understand, you got to listen to your body. You got to cue in. You got to know the height you can go, the time you can go.
Duration.
Because you can run people have come up and have knee problems. They get achier. But just from a compression on one axis, guys, one axis, the y-axis of the spine hanging upside down is very beneficial. Lymph benefit, decompression benefit. So it's a good toothbrush to have at home to complement the spine care. And it's not because I don't want someone to have it. They need to come in my office and get adjusted because I hear that. Like, oh, you're just the chiropractor, so you don't want me to come in. Dude, hanging upside down has nothing to do with spinal health other than just taking compression off your day on a day you're not getting adjusted. But let me tell you, it doesn't change your life and your stress levels the way an adjustment does, which is why I love it at home. And it's not like I'm trying to safeguard the adjustment. But a big fan.
Yeah, you brought up something important where you were talking about the sweating and sympathetic dominance. These people that are constantly in like a sympathetic state, which is like your fight or flight nervous system.
Yes.
And how chiropractic adjustment can help you transition back to parasympathetic, like rest and digest. And that's part of why, as soon as you did it, I felt my breathing slow and deepen, right? And with how much stress people are under today, you're seeing more and more people come in, not necessarily just for neck and back pain, but for stress. Well.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. So the end of 2018 and 2019, as much as people's admission ticket into my office is for the typical headache, neck pain, back pain stuff, only to find out as we go through and say, well, the nerves in your neck happen to go to your arm or your heart and lungs. And they're like, hey, I have shortness of breath, or my doctor diagnosed me with tachycardia, or I have sinus problems. And yeah, I didn't know my spine could relate to that. The reality is that a lot of people are under massive stress. And at the end of 2018, 2019, so many people are learning about it that they're seeing what are the tools or what are strategies I could do to mitigate stress. So I have people come in here, they feel great every week. They're like, oh, if you sit long enough, you're like, hey, is your back hurting? Why are you here? And they're like, no, I'm just coming to get tuned up. I'm going to minimize or neutralize my stress, because you can't get away from stress. No. The adjustment isn't a cure to stress. There's no magic bullet. But where we really shine bright is we neutralize it. And we neutralize it by creating an input into the nervous system that changes the output starting from your brain. Your brain is the pharmacy. And the adjustments bread and butter, and you notice it in 2 seconds. I don't need a paper to see it, even though there are out there. You stay in a sympathetic dominant state from stress, low level stress, I adjust you immediately take a breath. And the fact that you go like this, exhale with your mouth, well, that's parasympathetic. And that's where we heal.
Makes sense.
Rapid fire round.
Top supplements you see help for neck and back pain.
Biggest thing people really need to get on, in my opinion, and only my opinion, is fats. People need to really, stay on fats. Your omega
talking
3.
DHA?
Your DHA, your omega-3, your omega-6. All of those are very important, and you need to find a supplement or a company that you vibe with or one that you guys recommend. Because our spinal cord is wrapped in a sock, which is fat and cholesterol, and it's very important if you want it firing very fast that we gotta keep it protected. Nice. I do everything through food. The only time I run supplementation is when I'm running high on a lot of grass-fed meat, a lot of raw dairy, a lot of raw butter. When I feel like my diet's going that way hard, then I'll get into some hemp seed oils. Udos I've run for a long time. I experiment, I rotate. I'm not loyal. I'm always looking for something good. My favorite is Weston Price and all of those oils out there. I just think they do it right, and they do it with the right blends, with combining the right things in there to have the right synergistic effect. Huge fan of Weston Price.
Cool. So, we'll link those up in the show notes.
Okay, so
very nice. What's the favorite possession that you have, biohack, what have you, that's not your phone or computer?
We just talked about it. My gravity boots.
Yeah.
Hanging upside down to me is, because I'm bent over 100 people every day.
What brand do you have? I've got the Teeters.
Teeters. I got the blue ones that hook like space boots.
Nice.
And you know what? Best investment from a home care standpoint, like everybody shouldn't just start with those. I mean, you obviously could, but there's some people can't throw their legs up.
Terry hangs himself and does sit-ups like
and then he punches me in the abs.
Yeah. But, I've had them since I was, no joke, I've had them since I was 18, and I'm 35 right now, and I still have never replaced them. They work that good. Yeah.
Beautiful. And then kind of give us a rapid elevator breakdown of your training.
My training.
What you do for yourself.
Like what I do for myself? Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to get my body back. Actually, I've been a selfless dad for a very long time.
Please, you're jacked.
Those who are selfless dads know exactly what I'm talking about. The balance of work life and personal life. I'm nowhere near perfect. I'm nowhere where I wanted to be. Just want to get my college bod back. What I'm doing right now is because the trick with me, this might not be of interest to you, but since I adjust so many people, my joints can get tired and fatigued, not achy. So going into a gym sometimes, hitting that normal style style that I would have hit, I can't do that. So what I'm doing now is I'm doing actually almost like a Dorian Yates program. I'm a big fan of Dorian Yates and kind of like training shorter, harder, and intense, going to failure quicker. And then I'm mixing that up with just basic plyometric movements. I'm a huge fan of plyometrics, bottom line, even regardless of what someone's situation is in. Plyometrics, you want me to?
No.
No, it's good.
Let's find out where people can follow you and learn more about you.
You've got people banging on the door.
Yeah,
That's why.
it's time to adjust.
We're about to start adjusting, so people are knocking.
So where can people find you online?
Dr. Zev TV everywhere. DrZevTV.com. IG is Dr. Zev TV. That's where we show a lot of our artwork more than anything, meaning the adjustment, not canvas art.
So that's DrZev
TV. You know, regardless of what you think, my adjustments don't lie, and those videos speak for themselves, and so do all the people that we care for. But yeah, everything is pretty much Dr. Zev TV, guys.
And you also got a special offer for the Biohacking
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to throw you a great bone. Anybody from Biohacker audience who is local in this area or even non-local, we'll do 50% off our initial fee.
That's
so
awesome.
Our initial visit, guys, works like this. Everyone comes in and gets digital x-rays. They get their first adjustment, and we could also review one-on-one those x-rays so I can point out what I need to point out and create a groundwork and a strategy. Half off of that. Normally the fee's only $65. We make it inexpensive, so half off of that, and they'll be good to go.
Man, you guys take them up on that offer. That is an amazing offer. Thank you so much, Dr.
Super
Zev.
simple.
Thanks,
hanging
bro.
out with us.
Thanks for
Appreciate you.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Spitting the
Thanks for having me.
truth.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
All
guys.
right.
DrZevTV.com.
Thanks for watching, guys, and listening.
Thanks for hanging out.